Hi, Alana. How are you doing?
Hi, Meredith. I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having
Good.
me today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fun to see you in person or via Zoom.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it's great. We've had some good conversations, and I'm looking forward to exploring more about what you do. We came up with the title "Discovering Wellness Through Leisure."
Yes.
So we're really curious, or I'm really curious as to what that actually means. So going forward, we can talk a little bit about your passions, and that may be a good lead in to this discussion.
Yeah, so my passions heavily are they surround the things that I do in my free time, the things that I enjoy doing. So
Mhm.
for a lot of my life when I was younger, I used to figure skate. I used to figure skate competitively. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I don't know how long I did it for, but probably like 10 to 13 years I dedicated a lot of my life to figure skating. And then when I moved on to school, that's when I stopped and I learned to take up different things to get my body moving and get it engaged. And most recently, in the last year or so, I took up rock climbing, specifically bouldering. So it's been a pretty new and challenging experience for me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my passions and moving away from what I do in my free time. I hold a lot of my passion in what I do for my career. So um, that actually works well for what we're kind of talking about today, that leisure component in our lives. Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry, I think you're still muted, Meredith.
Oh, right. I'm muting because the audio sometimes doesn't work. So, anyway, so just catching up with you about your activities now. You're a recreational therapist. And so tell us a bit about that and how you assist individuals dealing with depression and anxiety.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, I recently just got a new job. So, I'm a recreation therapist and I work within Homewood Health, serving adults living with a range of mental illness. So, my role in supporting their wellness is helping them to achieve that quality of life and optimal health through that meaningful participation in recreation and leisure. So a little bit of the clinical side of it is I help them kind of get to that point and help them in that journey through assessments, functional intervention, recreation participation, and leisure education. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Well, fantastic. So we're talking a bit about depression, and we've labeled it as pandemic funk.
Yes, which I
Here,
love. I love
you
it.
love it, eh? Good, good. So, have you been experiencing that yourself?
Yeah. Ironically enough, so being on the front lines of all this. Previously, I was working in Brampton within children's mental health. So when that first started, COVID, you just hit the ground running there as the healthcare, not even just healthcare, everyone that continued to work and had to leave their homes to fulfill their roles in society. Like your threat system is just on. You're just ready to go. So initially, for a lot of this, first year of the pandemic, I never really had the chance to think about how it's really affecting me. Like, some things here and there with like my grandmother and seeing my family and some common things. I realized that it affected me, but the big um, scheme of it, like that pandemic funk that we're talking about, it didn't honestly hit me until recently. So, funny enough, it happened this whole month of December when I ended up moving to a new environment where I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what to do in the city. And then we just got into our second or third whatever lockdown we're in right now, province wide, and just feeling really lost in the shuffle, struggling with finding balance with my work life and my free time. So I felt a really just kind of scatterbrained a little bit for the last month, but that's kind of how I've been experiencing the pandemic funk, but I've just slowly started to get out of it just recently. So I'm glad that we're doing this because it fits so well with what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I definitely have done the same thing. I think my distractibility level has gone up, and so it's
Yes.
hard to be so be focused on things, which is tough because I would like to read more and that kind of thing. So I've set myself a goal of actually reading a chapter of the book instead of having to think about the whole book. I'm just reading chapter by chapter. But
Exactly.
yeah. So, anyways, can you explain what leisure education is? Because I'm not familiar with it either.
Yeah, for sure. So for those that are listening today, I just wanted to clear up two words here. So I use a lot of the words leisure and recreation. So leisure, excuse me, leisure is just a really big fancy word for free time. So within our free time is when we typically do our recreation pursuits, which are usually our hobbies, but it's not limited to just our hobbies. It can be our interests, our passions, just anything along those lines. So leisure education is the process of learning how our free time can benefit us and how our recreation pursuits can serve us and understanding what positive emotions it can bring to us. So that's really what, in a nutshell, leisure education is.
That's very helpful. That's really good. So, what advice can you offer for individuals who find it difficult to participate in a leisure activity?
Yeah, so I think you talked about that a little bit, Meredith, with reading the book, like kind of having our expectations not low per se, but just being kind to ourselves and being compassionate to ourselves. Maybe Meredith, you were used to, just reading the whole book front to cover, easy peasy. And now you're right, it's a little bit tough. We kind of find ourselves in this dialogue where it's like, well, there's so much more going on. What's the point of reading a book when there's other things to focus on? When really that's probably the case. That's probably more the reason to read the book. So you nailed it right on the head there, where it's about doing it in smaller doses sometimes. So instead of reading that whole book or going on that 5K run or walk, lowering a little bit and slowly integrating yourself back into that routine that I think a lot of us had developed in that first wave of the pandemic. And I know we've been in it for quite some time. So just we kind of get tired and it's the same thing over and over again. And that's all right. And in other ways, it's just kind of keep pushing through it and doing that opposite action. So the best example of what I'm talking about here is exercise. So, for me, when I was feeling really stressed out and kind of scattered brain, I used to move my body a lot more than what I was before. So, I come home from work and I like clean and I cook and then I'm done for the day and I'm too tired. But I tell myself, although I'm tired, exercise can also energize me. And there's lots of research that supports that, right? It makes us feel good. It releases endorphins into our body. So even though I'm tired, I still kind of challenge myself to do something that moves my body. And then I'm no longer tired anymore, right? But at first it's like not that great, kind of laying there and you're like, I don't want to do this. But yeah.
That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
For sure.
Because I kept having the bar, higher as to what I wanted to do, and realized I had to just keep bringing it back a little bit more. And also the idea of just starting something actually makes me feel better too. So thank you. That's very helpful advice, and I'm sure for people listening as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have lots of wellness activities for people to do during the pandemic?
Yeah, so it all depends kind of where our needs are at. So I have a small little list here. I'm not going to list all of them, but just so for people that are listening, I guess like when we think about recreation, we always think about like those physical activities. We're in winter now, so we think about tobogganing, snowshoeing, skiing, and all these things. But the reality is, some of us might not really enjoy a lot of physical activities, and that's okay, right? We don't have to be expected to like all these things, especially when the weather is cold. So it really depends on where your needs are at. So what I kind of listed there, some physical activities that you can do are those that I listed. Some people are still bike riding, depending on where you are, if the roads are clear and you're okay with that. Experiencing nostalgic experiences. So whether it's building a snow fort or a snowman, I know it sounds a little silly, but it does kind of ground us when we're able to have these moments that we used to have, right? Because everything's so different now in this uncertain world.
Yeah, it reminds me of the snow angels I did the other day with my grandson.
Yes. Yeah.
Getting out and doing it. You know, I hadn't done a snow angel in absolute ages, but it felt really good to do it.
Oh no, it's so freeing too. It's so freeing. But what I was saying at work when I saw snow forts, right? So I work with adults, so it's assumed that these adults they created this fabulous snow fort, and it just brought me back to getting that energy. Like, oh yeah, I want to do a snow fort. You reminded me of the snow angels. It's like yes, these small little moments that we have. It's important that we keep trying to preserve those moments and keep doing and engaging in these things. So besides physical activities, there's also emotional activities. So I know it sounds funny, but emotional activities isn't just crying per se, but they're really about activities that allow us to express ourselves, right? Whether it's having emotions in our body, and we feel that in our body, right? When we're stressed out, we get sore, or maybe we're tensed out, we have a headache. So having activities that can express ourselves and get that energy out, that kind of that empty fire. And you can do that through DIY projects. Maybe you have a home renovation you haven't gotten to yet, and this is the perfect time to finish it. What else I have? I have learning a new skill, whether it's something small like looming, which is really good, or you can go straight into crocheting, knitting, creating scrapbooks for people and dropping them off maybe. So many different things. Zentangling, which is a really fun little exercise, which is really just doodling. But it's a flow of doodling where everything that we do has a purpose, and there's like no true mistake. And just in life, we can't, if we do make a mistake, we can't really go back to it. So learning how we can be creative, and we make that little mess up, but what can we do to incorporate it into our larger lives? So that's Zentangling. It's really great if you guys want to check it out online. There's lots of cool YouTube videos and resources on that, and it's really easy to do for families, young kids, older adults. It's great. And then just quickly, the last three here, we have cognitive activities, so things that stimulate our minds. So for those who are like really bored, or maybe they're not doing, school isn't challenging enough, or maybe work is really slow, we need to find ways to kind of engage ourselves mentally more as well as physically. So you have your classic Sudokus, crosswords, rebus puzzles, which is really fun. They're language puzzles, trivia. So we have all this like lovely online platforms that you can connect with people still to have those trivia nights, whether it's friends or you're a part of a group that's converted their trivia nights online. I know some places have been able to do that. Social activities, they kind of go hand in hand in respect to, you know, Zoom fatigue and being on the screen all the time, kind of changing up how we connect with people, whether it's just like kind of driving past. I know I've seen a lot of people do that. If you're in an apartment, doing those things, taking socially distant walks as well can be something, or even writing a letter to people. I know we don't do that much anymore, but it is something that's, you know, still socially engaging, but it's something new and refreshing in this time. And our last one we have are those spiritual activities, the things that we do in our free time. So it's all dependent, right? Whether it's like that religious pursuit that people have or that self-spirituality, it's all kind of, they're all aiming for the same goal. And you can do that through meditation, through church services, or your wellness circles that you guys have, anything like that. Grounding exercises, gratitude journaling, all the things like that you can do.
Those are wonderful ideas. It just made me think, sometimes I'll go out for a walk and you try to engage with people, even though you're social distancing. So,
yeah.
And, you know, you have to move off the sidewalk because they're coming to you, but you don't want to sound like you're a really mean person or just so antisocial that you don't even want to have anything to do with them. So you're trying to get their eye contact a bit and just engage and say, hi, how you doing? Nice day. And some people are right really into it, and other people look a little bit surprised, like, oh right, I could engage still, I could still,
Yeah.
could still talk to people 6 feet distance, that kind of thing. So that makes me feel better that I can actually engage, because I'm isolated, I'm by myself. So it's important for me to engage with people as well on a sort of a natural way, instead of always Zoom, like you were saying, and that kind of thing. And sometimes just picking up the phone and calling people is a really
for sure.
relaxed. It doesn't matter what you look like and that kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, very good.
You brought up a good point about going on those walks and like making that extra effort to say hi, and whether if it's even not saying hi, just kind of waving. I'm thinking about my experience here in Guelph. Like, it's a lot smaller, and people are kind of more outside than from what I've experienced in Brampton, just because I guess it's the city that we're in. When I see, because I'm probably the one that'd be like, oh, whoa, it's just that Meredith is talking to me here outside. But it reminds me when people do that you're right. Yeah, I still can talk to people, and that encourages me when I'm outside and going on walks to make that extra effort as well. Kind of like that butterfly effect that's happening. So I'm glad you brought that up.
For sure, that was great to hear that and have that kind of endorsed as well. We have a scripture today that we picked out together, so I'm going to read it. It's Matthew 11:28, and we felt it was very good for this topic, so I'm just going to read it now. It says, "Come to me, all that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." So it's a very simple one. We've heard this one before, but it really is appropriate for these times.
Yeah, for sure. And talking a little bit about the leisure component, the two words that kind of stick out to me most: come to me. Oh, here it is, and I will give you rest, and all the stuff in the middle too. A lot of people are experiencing heavy burdens, and even before COVID, so many people are walking and carrying those heavy burdens and feeling weary, feeling uncertain. And these are everyday things, but now more than ever, it's affecting a lot more people. So come to me and I will give you rest really resonates with me in that leisure component. It's really about what you believe in, and knowing what your leisure serves you. So if you're going on your walk, Meredith, it's knowing that when you're on your walk, it will give you that rest. It could give you fulfillment. It could give you comfort, right? If that's something that you used to do all the time. And it's just being able to see leisure and recreation as that rejuvenation and that refresh, that reset, and just kind of that one certain thing, whether it's maybe for me, when I skate and I go into public skating, I'm good at it. It's my strength, and that gives me the rest if I'm at work and I'm feeling that what I do isn't doing much at all, right? And when we're in these moments, when we're using our skills and our strengths and our passions, that's when we can feel just more calm, more centered, and much more hopeful. So I think that's a perfect thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into our wellness circles. You've given us a number of ideas to use going forward. We're touching base now with people, every 3 or 4 days, just by Zoom, and saying, checking in. We have a quote of the day, or anything like that. But the wellness circles have made a difference for me as well as for others. I think they look forward to it. I look forward to it. And then the sharing of ideas, or whatever's been happening recently in the news that we want to pray about. We've been prayed about that this week. So we're very much attuned to people's needs now because of all this uncertainty and isolation in the pandemic. People are really feeling it.
Yeah, yeah. And you brought up the really cool thing of the wellness circles, just a little bit more of that leisure education. It's a social activity, right? Things that they do in their free time, and people are excited about it. And again, this whole discussion here, I'm hoping we can kind of change the narrative and how we see leisure and recreation. yes, it's fun and it's enjoyable, and sometimes we just do it because we have nothing else to do, but there's so much more that it can serve us. And thinking about these wellness circles, like, it gives them, yes, the joy for sure, but it also gives them that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose, that sense of self-worth, like, I'm doing this for me, or Meredith is checking up on me because she cares about me. And it's just a lot more than just enjoyment. So I think that's what really this a lot of this conversation is about, is just taking a step back and reflecting, okay, how have my activities in the past served me and provided me? What did it provide me? That rest, right? Did it provide me that joy?
And so, just a question about how all your passions, your emphasis on being a recreational therapist, how has that played into your faith as well? It's the spiritual side.
My spiritual side, yeah. I think I kind of touched on that. Just for me, it really comes down to like what you believe in, right? And for me, I believe that the things that I enjoy doing, the things that are new for me, I believe that they are refreshing and that they fulfill me, and that they make my life rich and full and meaningful. So by doing that, it's kind of like my grace, right? I go to do these things because it makes me feel good, but that's because I know that what I do can make me feel good and make me feel centered and grounded.
Great, great. That's super to hear. Is there anything else you would like to add to our discussion today that you wanted to share about your experiences at Homewood, or anything like that? The good feeling you get out of your the work that you do?
Out of my job, yeah. So I've just kind of started working at Homewood, so I don't have too much experience of really knowing what's to come. But why I got into this job, and just from my past role too, is just being able to be that catalyst, that little bridge to help people achieve what I was mentioning earlier, that quality of life and optimal health through meaningful activities. So I enjoy when I'm a very simple person. Some people might argue that, but I like to think I'm a very simple person. So doing things like having this Zoom call, or going on that walk, which I'm going to go on a walk today. Actually, it's very sunny if you can't tell, and just finding joy and helping people to reconnect and redefine their sense of self through these really simple things, right? We kind of get lost in our day to day where we have to do these big things to experience positive emotions, right? Sense of purpose. I need to do a huge thing to attain that, when really sometimes it's not, right? It might just be, you facilitating these sessions, right? Attending wellness circles, or facilitating a knitting group, right? That's your purpose. That's what we're doing here, and just, I guess, validating that our interests and things that we enjoy can be really life altering, right?
Sorry, that was very helpful and very insightful. Just as you as a person, we've learned a lot about you and also what you do, and thank you for sharing all your tips with us, because we can always use more ideas during this time frame.
Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes.
So I just wanted to pray us out now, just to thank you again. But
Thank you, Meredith.
let's pray.
Okay.
Dear God, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to talk to Alana today. Her focus and the discussions regarding discovering wellness through leisure is so important these days for people to keep mentally well through the uncertainty and isolation during this lockdown. Please be with the people listening to this Facebook Live event, keeping them healthy and safe. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you.
So thanks again. Hope you have a great walk.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to bundle up for sure.
It's a little bit cooler out there now.
Yes.
Okay. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.